Everyone here loves video games. Now, when I said that, I'm sure a list popped into your head. These could be games that you had a deep, intimate experience with, even if that's just a single level or character from a game. Because when you turn the game off, this explosion goes off in your head. The characters you encountered, the choices you made, the loot you got. On the other hand, you have games that incite you with this blind rage, where you just die over and over, watching the same guy wipe the floor with you every time.
Hey, I made it! I did it again!
To the point where you just go, fuck this, get out your chair, start a revolution with the locals, and kill the country's flamboyant warlord.
Aren't you Maria?
I wouldn't advise that, by the way. I got 8 months. But the thing is, even though that game wiped the floor with you, and you keep telling your friends the myriad of excuses why and how you died, you came back. And that's all that matters, baby.
You fucked up my face.
Try me, bitch, I dare you. Elmer Fudd looking ass. The one thing to realize is that no game will please everyone. You'll always have people that like or dislike a title. Unless you're talking about Garfield Kart. If you say that game sucks, you are objectively wrong. Come on. Come on. Come on. What the hell is this? Yeah, I take back everything I said. 0 out of 10. Before properly jumping in, I do want to say Dunkey did make a video on this in 2016. And I'm starting to notice a trend as of late. Dunkey's video is great and covered most areas. This is just my personal take on it and how it's affected my favorite franchises. So please hold off writing that concise and well-formatted critique for just a few more minutes.
You heard the lady. Move like you got a purpose.
Now, gaming and technology are in this constant rat race with each other because video games age faster than pretty much any other media. Take TV, for example. You can watch an episode of The Walking Dead from last year. That CGI fucking sucks. Then go way back to 2011 with the second season of The Walking Dead. Wow, it's actually better. What happened? There are games that avoid this aging, usually because of their unique art direction. But if your game's going for a more realistic look, it's gonna age about as quick as my content. Now, I remember, there's a bear down here if you missed this jump. But me being the amazing acrobat, for fuck, where's the bear? Oh, Jesus Christ. Piss off, piss off, piss off, piss off, piss off. That actually wasn't too hard, to be fair. Like, I remember from my childhood this being one of the hardest fights ever. I just die over and over to this. Oh my god. It doesn't help that gaming is easily one of the most saturated markets out there. With every one decent quality title released, you'll have about 20 brainlets trying as hard as possible for you to depart with your money. For a game that was probably made with Go Animate. But hey, if a franchise is doing well, because it has a well-executed formula, I respect that. But if you're copying the same map without any huge changes, I think we have a problem. Now, chances are you've been gaming for a long time. You might be able to remember the first game you played as a kid, having no idea what the fuck you were doing because you were like 30 seconds out of the womb. But you still have this dumbass smile on your face the whole time.
Kowalski, how's the leg?
Definitely broken, sir. 2 places.
Well, unfortunately, healthcare isn't free in America, so,
Damn it.
Remasters and remakes are crucial here as they build that bridge between your old classics and bringing them into the present. Now, keep in mind, remakes and remasters are totally different things. Now, firstly, we got the remaster. A remaster is taking an already existing game and just scrubbing the dirt off it. This is the bare minimum in most cases, usually just upscaling the resolution or doubling the frame rate. If you're lucky, you'll actually notice the difference comparing it to the original. I'm just bewildered how many of these remasters there are that change absolutely nothing. So here we got GTA San Andreas, and they changed the time of day. They changed the time of day. And sometimes the remaster actually looks worse than the original. Take Fable Anniversary, for example. Everything now looks so faded and dried out. Sure, the actual polygon count is higher, you can't argue with that, but what's the point if the game's original style is lost? An example of a remaster done well is Halo Anniversary. A game like this caters to both parties, having updated visuals while also being able to switch back to the original version on the fly. That's why when a remaster is announced, but no physical gameplay is shown, I'm so hesitant, because they might have changed too much or too little to be worth your purchase. I hate as well how some of these cheap-ass remasters always throw in the DLC and act like it's a selling point. Like they're fully aware that there was no point updating these games yet. Take Skyrim Special Edition. Purchasing this means most of your original Skyrim mods will be totally incompatible. And instead of fixing this, they just added paid mods into the game. Literally, none of the bugs are fixed, and they tried to hide the original Skyrim from search results. But it's okay, guys, because mushrooms are now in 4K. But sometimes when remasters do add in or replace content from the original, it destroys the framework of the entire game. Take the Silent Hill remaster. They changed so much about the second and third games.
Where am I?
Notice how I said changed, not updated? Because nothing here is an update. Instead, they somehow downgraded the entire experience.
As you can see, it's the original Xbox version. You see his fucking sign here? Yeah, cause
But then again, these are the guys that instead of remaking Metal Gear Solid 3, they made it into a fucking slot machine. Firstly, they scaled back the fog so you could see everything. They replaced sound assets that were all somehow worse than the original, including replacing the entire voice cast of both games. In Silent Hill 2, James was this bumbling idiot, and every line was delivered with this intrigue and curiosity. But in the remaster, they just replaced him with Troy Baker, because Troy Baker must voice every single character by law.
How do you know about that? Aren't you Maria?
How do you know about that? Aren't you Maria?
Who are you?
My name is DeWitt. I'm a friend.
I love Troy, but you can't undo the tone of the game for a popular voice actor.
Well, that's, first of all, the most preposterous thing I've ever heard.
Steve Blum is pretty popular. Doesn't mean you have to add him into everything.
I'll never hurt you like she did. So why don't you want me?
It's because you're Viet Cong.
I'm certain that the dog from the secret ending made this game. All that we're waiting on now is the Silent Hill slot machine. Oh, what the fuck? Just remember, guys, Silent Hills was cancelled for this. But sometimes, if you're super lucky, changes a remaster brings can actually benefit the game. Like when they increased the player cap in Dark Souls 2, The Prisoner of Azkaban, or when Banjo-Kazooie was remastered and ported over to Xbox. The stop and swap they had on the N64 was fully realized. Too bad the rewards can suck my left nut. Come on, man, this has got to be good. I've waited 10 years for this, since the original Banjo-Kazooie. A game of picture. Also, the first Dark Souls is being remastered now. That's a thing. Next to none of the combat's been changed. I didn't really appreciate Dark Souls until the third installment, so it's kind of disappointing that stuff like the weapon arts won't appear in the remaster. But it does seem the multiplayer has been massively improved. The player count has been upped, and the password matchmaking from Souls 3 is back. And finally, the gods have answered our prayers, bumping us up from peer-to-peer servers to fully dedicated. Remember how you'd spend like 24 years trying to summon a dude into your world, only for it to fail anyway? Well, not anymore, fucko, because we out here in the year
2018.
This is a prime example of a game that'll favor newcomers over old, making it more accessible while still staying somewhat true to its core fan base. It's a shame that literally nothing's been changed apart from multiplayer mechanics. Like, it would have been nice to see some different enemy or item placement, although for me, I'll get to see Solaire in HD, and that's all a man can want.
No need to hide your reaction. I get that look all the time.
One remaster I'd really like to see is Simpsons Hit and Run. You could play this game like a total degenerate asshole, but just because you didn't directly kill anybody, it was a kid-friendly game. You guys want Road Rage to be remastered instead? But could you get out your car in that game? I don't think so. I don't think so. Now, moving away from the remasters, you have the remakes. Where the remasters reused the original game and polished it up, remakes are usually crafted straight from the ground up. You better be ready for this.
We're going to bring back the original Crash, Crash 2, and Crash Warped, fully remastered from the ground up for PlayStation 4. So let's have a look at that.
got it.
But when remaking a game, it's easy to lose focus on what the original designers envisioned, especially since it's usually a totally new team that works on the game. So it's a much higher risk compared to a remaster. But when everything clicks, and a remake is crafted by people who are just as invested as you, it can lead to something beautiful. Ratchet and Clank is a good example. Hey, is Ratchet and Clank really 15 years old?
Yes.
Oh man, I'm a corpse. The original looks simple, but has this really pronounced art style. Now upgrade that with today's technology. Now you have these massive ensemble pieces that just flood your senses because there's so much going on. It's a shame the game was capped at 30 frames, but it's almost a worthy sacrifice for these amazing visuals. Almost. Remakes don't just improve the graphics, they also try to modernize the gameplay. Whether that's more tight and responsive controls, or features to make the experience feel more unique. With Ratchet and Clank, they did this by adding a weapon upgrade tree. Weapons will upgrade depending on how much they were used. You could stick with one weapon and totally clean house with it, while also wanting to try out new weapons to see how they'd fare upgraded. Remember how hard it was buying the Rhino, but also how rewardingly devastating it was to use? Now imagine upgrading that thing, and you've basically won the game. If a remaster is turning your dirt house into wood, a remake is creating a cathedral for gamers, where all the choir boys wear gay-ass shirts like these. One remake I'm most excited for is the Spyro Reignited trilogy, mainly because the most recent reincarnation of Spyro looks like a diseased, mentally insane idiot.
You better stay here.
I remember when I was a kid, just spending all night on the first Spyro games. I have such a deep connection with these games because they're so interconnected with my childhood. Especially the first game. I still remember having only seconds left after completing the time trials, or relaxing on the edges of the maps, taking in those simple but aesthetically pleasing skyboxes. I remember these plants that would scare the bejesus out of me as a kid, to the point where I'd hide like a little bitch and chill with these guys. How's it going, man? You just hear you asshole! You asshole! Fuck you, man. Don't worry, chicken. I got you cut off. God damn it. Also, who remembers that impossible gauntlet of run jumps you had to do on treetops? Of course you don't, because I, Pyrocynical, am the only man on Earth to have mastered it. You can't make this jump. You can't make it. I'm a 40-year-old man and I still can't make this jump. Also, there was this part where you used a railgun to turn the entire population into midgets. I also remember how underwhelming the boss fights were in pretty much every game, but we don't talk about that, alright? Still to this day, at the ripe age of 45, I boot up Spyro the Dragon and try to do an 100% run, saving all the dragons, knocking the shit out of the egg thieves, and listening to that soundtrack, because, oh man, that soundtrack. If any of you notice in my videos, the majority of background music I use is from Spyro. It was composed by Stuart Copeland, and although he isn't going to come back for the remake, the game's going to reimagine his soundtrack. So hopefully it will sound something like this. And less like this. And although Stuart may be out of the picture, Tom Kenny is reprising his role as Spyro, which is pretty slick.
Is this rain ever gonna stop? I've forgotten what the sun looks like. We should go on vacation. Somewhere warm. Somewhere sunny.
Tom did a great job with the second and third Spyro games. Now you're probably wondering who voiced Spyro in the first game.
What about Nasty Newark? I'm going after him.
It was Mr. Weed from Family Guy. Go on the wiki page, I'm being serious, man. The one thing I hope they rectify is the controls. They were serviceable, but they felt way too tank-like. I want to feel like I'm playing a prepubescent dragon, not fucking Chris Redfield. A lot of people say that Spyro and Crash go hand in hand. Even the remakes follow each other on Twitter. But in my eyes, it's like comparing Elon Musk to cheesecake. Spyro was a more expansive adventure, being able to fully move in a 3D environment, while Crash was more linear but incredibly tightly constructed. Also, maybe I'm a bit biased because the plants scared the shit out of me as a kid, so I totally refused to complete the first level of the game. I'm not a coward, I just know how to preserve my own life. One problem with remaking games is solely relying on the nostalgia the original fans had. Although it's amazing seeing your childhood games being brought into the present, you gotta understand that you're sharing that remake with someone who was probably your age when you first played the game. And then when he's your age, he'll probably have a remake of the remake. Another game we got is Timesplitters. I love this franchise, man. You had this oddball cast of characters. The two main characters looked like they were from the year 4 billion. Throughout the game, you were bouncing through time. It felt like a spiritual successor to GoldenEye, even including that weird feature that you had no hand holding the gun. Seriously, what the fuck was up with that? You felt like this was a serious story with crushing undertones about humanity's impending doom.
Out of the darkness they came with a hateful will to destroy humanity. We fought long and hard, but now we are lost.
I think the plot got a bit convoluted though, especially when they added the dinosaur character who used dual Tommy guns. Now I know GoldenEye had some weird characters like Random Task, but when your left hand becomes a playable character, I think you're breaking the canon. I think my favorite overall character was Gretel from the second game. She had no dialogue or personality whatsoever, but she had a pretty good physique, so I'd give that a 10. This series is long dead, and although there were playable levels in Homefront 2, a game that's actually worse than the Easter egg it's referencing, the licensing is owned by Crytek, and people have tried for years to get them to re-release it with next to no progress. There is a project working on remaking the game on a new engine, and it does look promising, but in all honesty, you're better off just emulating the game and playing it with a controller. Skip the first game and jump straight into the second and third. Look at this brainlet here, firing one rocket at a time. Why would they let you fire 6 rockets at once? I'd love to see the Metal Gear games get remade. The first Metal Gear Solid did get remade in 2004, and 2 and 3 have had remasters. But it'd be great to see a total overhaul of the series about 5 years from now, with every game represented in the Fox engine. Because as of now, the Metal Gear series couldn't end on a more terrible note.
Linda, how you doing?
You look like you've clocked some miles since we last spoke.
Yeah, a few. I've heard they don't make them like me anymore. There was this other guy, though. Army infiltration. He wore a bandana or something.
Infinite ammo.
I heard he finally retired.
Really?
Yep.
It's only me.
Sam.
Yeah.
Gotta fucking hate Konami, man. Now, as good as remakes sound, they aren't immune to shitty design. For every series of unfortunate events remake, you have your Bangkok Dangerous remake. With the landscape of gaming changing so quickly, games that were classics years ago totally lose all value to the modern market. And in an industry where passion is lost over printing money, the people who are put in charge of reimagining your childhood could be the inhabitants of Arkham Asylum. I'm very sure that Perfect Dark Zero was created by the Joker in a sick, twisted prank to get back at Batman by spreading as much injustice as humanly possible while in the confines of a video game.
Teach you to mess with my business. Get down!
You're not gonna try another shot? No? Oh, alright. The original was you playing as a spy infiltrating high-tech compounds. The first levels felt contained and concise, condensing the combat into mini arenas. But the later levels opened up way too much, with these giant empty landscapes taking you ages to get to each objective. The remake took all the shit levels in Perfect Dark and made that the entire game. There's a cover system, but no one will use it because the environments are just so barren. So enemies will rush you like their brains are set to airplane mode. I mean, look at this review IGN did. I know these guys don't do the best job at times, or like, ever.
But you'll still die fast, respawn fast, and kill fast. It's as satisfying a cycle as it's always been, especially when you do less dying and more killing.
That's every first-person shooter ever made. Dumb bitch. But even they don't give a crap about this game.
You don't really have a clear idea of what you're doing or specifically why you're doing it. You'll know generally what your goals are, but there's really no character in the game, and there's not a lot of sense of motivation for you to move through. You don't really... Graphics in the game are really good in general.
Yeah, I appreciate the effort you're putting into this review. If you genuinely enjoyed this game and thought it was better than the original, you are a complete brainlet.
Oh, this is my boogie down. It goes.
Oh wow, it's Pyrocynical.
This man is a brainlet. I think the best example of a shitty remake was Shadowrun. The game was originally an RPG with a cyberpunk theme, much like Deus Ex.
Come on, Sam.
Oh my God, Daddy!
What a shame. He was a good man. What a rotten way to die. What a shame.
And 14 years later, they remade the game as a multiplayer FPS. Now, if you want to remake a game into a totally different genre, that's fine. But if you have to shut your servers down, then eventually go bankrupt, I think something went seriously wrong. And even on launch, it was so hard to find a full lobby.
Shadowrun started as a pen and paper role-playing game, but then went on to become a board game, a Sega Genesis game, dozens of novels, Super Nintendo game, and even a first-person shooter for Xbox and PC.
It's a shame as well because it had a lot of great plays to conventional multiplayer. Most multiplayer games have a character or item that can heal you, but in Shadowrun, you'd plant a seed into the ground that would sprout a tree that would heal everyone, both you and the enemy, while also providing cover and simultaneously giving your position away. Or how about that anyone who dies can be revived as long as their body's intact? So killing an enemy wouldn't be enough, you'd be pumping rounds into a corpse to make sure it can't be resurrected later. I mean, in what other game are you going to have a guy with a minigun and a guy with a katana duking it out, and the guy with the katana actually wins? How did that happen? Oh. But apparently Shadowrun introduced games for Windows Live. Right. Okay. I take back everything I said. The game is dog shit. There was no love or craft put into this game. But look at this. Look at these races. Clearly, they were stolen from Skyrim. It's very obvious, guys. In conclusion, bros, remakes and remasters are always going to be a mixed bag. And if you're worried about your childhood classic being botched, there's always the choice of emulating a game, or even tracking down the original copy online. Someone's selling Final Fantasy VII for £175 million. Yep. 100% positive feedback. But no matter where you look at it, games are going to be re-envisioned and rebooted for years to come.
That's the stupidest name I've ever heard.
Now, can someone please explain to me what the fuck is a tie?